In part 2 of my Faux Bentos mini-series, I teased the idea of making a pineapple upside down cake in this sealed container to try to emulate the Faux Bentos pie canning process. Today we're going to test that out. So that's the plan. We're going to make a pineapple upside down cake in this sealed can, pressure cook it. That should cook the cake and in theory replicate a pressure canning process. Then we're going to see what it's like when it's opened and baked further and turned out upside down. Here's a picture of what pineapple upside down cake is supposed to look like for reference. Let's get on and make it. Studio Shrimp here with a very short sanity break. If you landed straight on this part of the mini-series without having seen the previous parts, you might be wondering what the heck is going on and why I'm talking about steaming a cake in a can. Don't worry, it's not you, it's me. You may or may not have heard of the Faux Bentos brand of canned pies. If you haven't, then welcome to that rabbit hole. But anyway, the main objective of this set of videos was to test out my conjecture that the Faux Bentos format would work for making tarte tatin. That is, French upside-down caramel apple tart. I think we more or less answered that in part 2, but here in part 3 I'm trying to stop wondering whether it would be possible to make a canned, shelf-stable pineapple upside-down cake. My experiment here won't be able to actually test the shelf stability part, but it does seem to be a fairly decent test of everything else about packaging something in a can. So first thing to do is going to be to line the bottom of this pan with a bit of sugar and butter. I'm actually going to use the sugar in the form of golden syrup. So just like about probably 10 grams of butter in the bottom there. I'm just going to go and put that on the stove and melt it to spread it around. So that's near enough melted and spread around. It's good enough. So now golden syrup, about probably a tablespoon and a half. And now pineapple rings. And it is a pull tab can, and I'm using a can opener by choice because I prefer to. And now the pineapple rings into here, and hopefully we'll get 4 of them in their hole. Not looking hopeful for 4 actually. Oh, we might just squeeze 4 in. Yeah, let's do it. Now, glass of cherries, 1 each in the middle of those pineapple rings. Wow, these are really sticky. It's a bit cold in the kitchen today. And anything that should be syrup is tending towards toffee. Okay, and why not another one in the middle here? I mean, I could put another one in those little corner pockets as well, couldn't I? But I don't think I will. That can now be set aside, and I need to make some cake mix to go in there. Now I think I might only need 1 egg's worth of cake mix to fill this container sufficiently, but I'm going to make it with 2, and I'll use the remaining cake mix for something else. We'll have a look at that. Into a mixing bowl, 2 large eggs. This is 75 grams of soft brown sugar. Butter, I've got again 75 grams. I'm just going to go and melt that in the microwave so that it's easier to blend in. Right, so 75 grams of softened butter, half a teaspoonful of vanilla extract, 125 grams of self-raising flour, half a teaspoonful of bicarbonate of soda, in addition to the baking powder that's already in the flour, because this will give it a really nice light rise. And then my butter. That is adequately mixed, but I want this to be almost a pourable batter. So I'm going to give it a tiny little bit of this pineapple juice. A bit more. Okay, that looks good. And obviously that gives it a bit of the pineapple flavour in the cake as well. Not that it's going to be short of that. So as I say, I don't think we're going to need all of this cake mix in here. Let's start with about that much. Need to leave some headspace here because I'm expecting this to rise when it's baked. So I'm expecting it to not exactly double in size, but it probably will go up to about 1.5 times its initial size. That'll do. Lid on. I'm not going to put a parchment sheet on there this time. Just going to hope that that doesn't stick. We will put the pressure clamp in place. Tighten that up. Good and tight. And then that needs to go in the pressure cooker.
This seems like an appropriate moment to stop for a word or two about safety. It's important to note that I'm about to use my pressure cooker in a way that is outside of its specification, and the same is true for the sealed stainless steel vessel I'm going to put inside it. I've taken steps to satisfy and mitigate my own concerns about potential risks, but remember, I'm just some idiot on the internet, so you shouldn't copy what I'm doing here. I can only be responsible for my own safety to the best of my ability, and then as well subject to whatever harms may arise from my own actions or failures or negligence. Your safety is your own responsibility. I do not endorse anything you see in this video as safe enough for anyone else to attempt or imitate.
So that into there. And lock it down. And then we're going to go for pressure cook 20 minutes with natural steam release. Go. Good luck, little cake. Right, pressure cooker has completed its cycle. That can come out of there now. And unlike the previous experiments, we haven't got any leakage of the contents into the vessel. That might just mean the cake hasn't risen at all. So in this episode's Waste Not segment, we're going to do something with this remaining cake batter. There's about half of it there, and I'm going to make pancakes. So a splash of milk, it's probably about 50 ml. That is going to go in a frying pan. I'm going to see what that's like when we cook it as pancakes. I'm just going to let that stand for a little bit, just to let the flour hydrate. I'll probably do that in the fridge. So using this leftover cake batter, which I've put a bit of milk in to dilute, just going to cook it as pancakes. I think that'll work. We'll soon find out. Tiny little brush of vegetable oil in the pan. We'll just try one to start with. Might be a bit thin. I think these are going to come out a bit more like Shrove Tuesday pancakes, but that's fine. I suppose if I'd added a bit less milk, they would have been thicker. First one's often a little bit iffy, so we'll just see what happens. Perhaps a little bit prone to sticking here. Okay, that's going to be a bit of a disaster, that first one, but I'm sure that's still edible. Was it first one for the dog, last one for the cow or something? A little bit more oil this time. And let's try that again. This doesn't work, I might try a different pan. But yeah, the only problem is that they stuck. What do they taste like? Very cakey pancake, but very edible. Yeah, they're sticking quite a lot. I think it might just be the amount of sugar that's in them. I wonder how that bodes for the stuff that's been steamed in the can. I wonder if that means that's going to be stuck in there. I may just roll that up. Yeah, I think I might just roll that up. I've got a plan for the next one. Okay, that's okay. Let's just pause the stove, and I've got a plan for the next one. So one of the pineapple rings we didn't use, which I've diced up. We'll start again. Good coating of oil in there. Just let that cook for a moment. There's nothing wrong with the previous one at all. Then this diced pineapple, I'm going to carefully spread a line across the middle. Like that. And I shall roll up this one, including the pineapple. Just cook it a little bit longer. I'm going to cut there so that I don't have to make a mess of that getting it out. And then I'm going to make a mess of it getting out. Let's just give that a try. So, pineapple stuffed pancake. Very nice. That middle, it is cooked, but it's still quite tender. That's nice. Nice enough that I want to do it again. Okay, and this one I think I will stop just short of the end. I'm still going to have to cut that to get it out of the pan. So there we go, the cake in there is still, it's only just set, so it's quite tender, quite puddingy. That's so nice. Even if the thing in the can doesn't come out well, this bit is a success. This is now cooled down. Let's see what awaits us inside. Well, that is actually really rather good. Let's have a look and see. There's no liquid seeping. That's... I'm surprised it browned inside the can. That's really interesting. So I'm only going to give that maybe 15 minutes in a hot oven. This could be the most successful one of the series so far. Right, there we go. That's only taken about 12 minutes and it's baked and it started to crisp up on the outside. We need to get that turned out quickly just in case the sugar is setting. Just going to run a knife around the edge of that. Seems to be fairly free. And then as before, we'll get it onto that glove. Get that on top. And then over we go. The tin is actually hot, but with dry hands it's not a big problem lifting that. Okay, that doesn't look quite as sugary and caramelized as I would have expected if we baked that from scratch in the oven, but it's not terrible. This dessert is meant to be served hot, so let's do that. Okay, so it's definitely very cakey in the middle. I'm just going to taste a bit before I put anything else on there. So yeah, it looks fairly dense. It doesn't seem dense to eat. It's actually quite nice and light. I think we'll have this with a bit of custard. Yeah, so it is lacking. Sometimes when you bake this dish in an oven from scratch, the pineapple does caramelize. So we haven't got that. But if you served me this and didn't tell me it was canned, yep, I simply would not know that that came out of a can. One factor that may be an issue here is the leavening that's in this cake batter produces carbon dioxide when it's cooked. That wasn't a problem for my makeshift canning process because it wasn't completely sealed. In a true canning process, that might be an issue because that might build up pressure inside the can and cause it to go boom. That might be a reason why this couldn't be done in a can, although canned cake products did and do exist. Not bad. And I don't think we have to go back to Studio Shrimp for any conclusions on this one. I think that just kind of worked pretty much as I expected. There will be a part 4 to this series though, because there's just one other little thing that's on my mind. But anyway, for now, I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.